Do you remember your first game in a genre that you now love? Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Trails, Fire Emblem, Shin Megami Tensei, including Persona. All these games have massive scripts and complex, intricate gameplay systems that build the foundation for incredibly lengthy playthroughs. Perhaps the turn-based JRPG genre might seem intimidating for those new to it or new to gaming in general. Sure, you can just plug your nose and jump in the deep end, but there are less intense ways to enter a pool. Gateway games are enjoyable by anyone, but perform especially well as an introduction to a genre. They have more accessible gameplay mechanics and often have sort of a gimmick that encourages those that aren't necessarily fans of the genre to give the game a shot. Pokemon is a great pick for this role. The gimmick of collecting, training, and battling with an astounding variety of cute and/or badass pets is enticing. My gateway game was Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. The gimmick here is that it's Mario. I got it just because it was Mario back in the 3rd grade. But there's one game that might come as a bit of a surprise that I believe to be an excellent gateway game, even handily outperforming other gateway games in a particular aspect. And that game is Miitopia. Okay, yeah, it's not much of a surprise since you read the title, but you get what I was going for there. So, let's look at why Miitopia fills this role so well, starting with the gimmick. Miitopia has you populate the entirety of the game with Miis, which is to say you can create every single character in the game to your liking. Of course, the game also has default Miis for many of the characters, in case designing 8 Miis for a town seems an overwhelming task. But the main draw is that you can explore this world of and alongside original characters, your favorite fictional characters, or imitations of real people. It creates a unique sense of attachment to this highly personalized world. For example, here's my original character Do Not Steal, Disney the Princess. She ended up nothing like my original vision once I unlocked more equipment. Nowadays, she dons a sailor uniform and hides from problems with fat stacks of cash. Literally, one of her abilities is to prevent status effects by blocking the party's eyes with her money. Ew, don't look, that thing's pore might infect you. What makes this gimmick even better is the online integration, allowing random popular Miis from other people to bumble into your world as quest givers. Don't mind me just hanging out with my homies Wario, Waluigi, Chef Gordon Ramsay, and Trollface. Honestly, I'm surprised anyone out there even remembers Trollface in current year. These quest givers swap out daily once you unlock them, so you see 3 random Miis every day. What an exciting event, it's like rolling for new characters in a gacha game. Yes, I pulled a 5-star Peter Griffin! You can also keep Miis from online, if you like them enough, add them to your party. What elevates this Mii creation concept is the fact that every character is full of personality. Your party members bond and interact constantly, your little creations have minds and lives of their own. You even have less control over them than in other games in the genre. They buy gear when they want to, they do as they please in battle, they have individual food preferences, and will have random events where they bond or bicker with each other. They're influenced by their selected personality type in some cases, and in other cases it's truly arbitrary. Viewing the antics, reactions, and interactions of the characters is extremely amusing. These little knuckleheads will grow on you, especially since they're designed by you. It's like looking after the children you never knew you wanted. As in, you're still not sure you want them because they keep buying the wrong damn thing. Get your shit together. The whole premise relies on the player's affinity for imagination and desire for creation. It's a fun little idea regardless of someone's gaming background, and it's absolutely appealing to people that just enjoy the notion of adventuring among their favorite characters and people, or at the very least, beings created by the player. Watching others play the game is especially engaging since you get to witness them create a ton of characters and see how they react to these characters doing what they do. Try getting a relative or friend to play in person just to watch what happens. I assure you it's good fun. It's like having them take a personality quiz, except you don't get to add their email address to a spam mailing list at the end. The game is also full of that Nintendo charm. Pun enemies like the Twerky, I still can't believe that's a thing in a Nintendo game, like who the hell told Nintendo about twerking? And all the goofy dialogue I found to be charming and amusing. Like how every time you're running through a stage, your party throws completely random quips at each other, and sometimes the quips line up just right to be coherent. I live for those moments. So we've established the gimmick is excellent, but what of the actual gameplay? After all, if the game itself isn't fun and easily digestible such that people of various gaming backgrounds can enjoy, no one will actually stick around even if they had preliminary interest. They might be attracted enough for that initial purchase, but without a stellar experience to match, people won't be motivated to keep coming back for this and future products, let alone make any recommendations to friends. You know, just like drugs. Anyway, it's clear the developers had a casual audience in mind when designing the game. The combat is a simpler, more automated version of something like the combat of old Final Fantasy games or Dragon Quest, which is already pretty easy to understand. You have a very familiar 4-person party in a turn-based setup, except you only have direct control of the main character. All of the turns happen automatically. You can interrupt at any time to use options off a menu that can support your party with things like sprinkles or moving them to a safe spot. Your party will assist each other or argue based on the bonds you form at the end. This approach of only controlling one character and supporting the rest through specific actions is meant to keep things light and easy to manage. This works for a vast majority of the game, but high difficulty content will absolutely make you wish you had total control. It's like you're the boss of a restaurant in a comedy cartoon. The place runs well enough, but your employees are clearly incompetent, and there's enormous room for improvement. The AI can make some really stupid decisions, and having to memorize turn orders to intervene at the perfect moment is a chore. You also can't really come up with strong builds and strategies enough to make up for a complete lack of exploration or grinding, due to the simplicity of the gameplay mechanics. Thankfully, this isn't an issue for most of the game. It only becomes a problem at the final post-game challenges, or if you rushed to the final boss. Otherwise, suboptimal is more than enough to make your way through Miitopia. It's clear you're supposed to just screw around and take your time while playing the game. There are so many progression systems in place that are based on completing stages, killing a bunch of monsters, and reaching the end. Bond levels, food stat increases, equipment purchases, and sprinkle improvements to name a few. There are daily quests later in the game, and the game regularly nags you like a parent to get off the Nintendo and spend some time outside. These 2 points heavily suggest that the game is meant to be enjoyed in frequent but small chunks. If you're rushing through the game, many aspects of it will frustrate you. The pacing will seem off and initially repetitive, you'll wish you could skip certain scenes, and so on. In this game, the grind is seen as part of the fun, not as a chore impeding the path to a greater goal. An example being how in some other games, at times you just want to progress and see what happens next in the story. Not really ever the case in Miitopia. I personally rebelled against the leisurely pace and blasted through to post-game, where I will now chill out and play in a more relaxed manner. I did still enjoy the main playthrough though. The game is forgiving enough that being underleveled and undergeared created an interesting challenge for me. Basically, you're expected to just casually save the game over a long period of time, not binge it like a Netflix sitcom. The developers also don't care for you to optimize the game. The party automation and multitude of strict progression systems prove that. It's about the journey, not the destination. But how enjoyable is the journey? Quite. You're rewarded for exploration with not just the usual treasure, but also the advancement of several progression systems such as gear and grub simultaneously. Discovering the creative abilities and themes of the various classes is delightful. The mage conjures massive, satisfying explosions and can call down the wrath of God. The scientist creates the Flintstones multivitamins, sprays G Fuel everywhere, and fires the hype laser cannon. Seriously, discovering the class abilities is a joy here. Bond perks are a thrill whenever they randomly trigger. It's a spontaneous hit of joy right to your lizard brain in the form of massive damage boosts or dramatic power-up sequences. The soundtrack also randomly bangs at times. I love this part of the event battle theme. The dynamic music change when you're using menu options to dulled, muffled instruments is super cool. Hearing songs like this play while you're in the heat of battle pumps you the hell up, and definitely surprised the hell out of me the first time I heard it. Seriously, catch me in the club with some of these tunes. This is the theme of a hand enemy, by the way. All in all, Miitopia is capable of backing up its stance on enjoying the grind. Sure, for the first 3 chapters, your progression is limited, as you and your party have your progress stored but temporarily reset between chapters. I get why they did it. You're made to create more characters, which is the whole premise of the game, but the regular resetting for 3 chapters can still feel frustrating, and I wonder if some people are off-put by it enough to stop playing. I felt like a puppy on a short leash with a treat just out of reach, especially since I had the opposite approach of what was apparently intended and blazed through the game, like a college student waiting until the last second to crank out a term paper. But each chapter introduces new environments and classes, keeping things interesting. Then chapter 4 hits, the limiter is broken, and thereon you're rapidly provided with more and more freedom and possibility, gradually expanding the strength of the party and experiencing the full extent of what the game has to offer is gratifying. The game even sports a bus and post game. I mean, robust, as it produces new major areas, tons of new dungeons, a couple new classes, and an increasing scale of challenges that eventually require all the progression systems be thoroughly developed, if not maxed out, and total mastery of the game mechanics. Through all this, the game remains steadfastly straightforward and easy to understand. Every game mechanic is intuitive, even to those without experience in the genre, or gaming in general. The game is designed to be enjoyed with as little hassle as possible. You're not expected to devote careful thought until pretty much post-game, especially if you've been exploring or grinding. It's a fully fleshed out experience, not perfect in my eyes, but thoroughly committed to its ideas and ideals. Now let's talk about the special quality that makes Miitopia an especially outstanding gateway game among its peers. The essence of classic turn-based JRPGs is engraved deeply into the bones of Miitopia. Let's go down the list, shall we? Plot, premise, and structure. You, a hapless nobody, learn of a great new evil plaguing the land. Now you must rise up against the Dark Lord, gather allies, and bring peace to these parts. You travel through foreign, strange lands. You meet new allies and topple various foes, gathering strength all the while until you can finally take on the final boss and his 4 heavenly kings. I just described like 37 different turn-based JRPGs right there, but also Miitopia. The structure of the game is very familiar. They weren't trying to break new ground here. In the second part of the game, you even get aerial transportation to move more freely around the overworld, reminiscent of Final Fantasy's airships. Classes. Classic JRPG classes make an appearance. Warrior, Black Mage, White Mage, Thief, these are staples in the genre. Of course, there's new stuff as well, like Weird Gyrating Plant. This doing anything for you? And Tank. No, like literally tank. But the foundation is those core JRPG classes. Gambling and fishing. It's a bit of a bizarre phenomenon, but gambling and fishing are surprisingly prevalent across many JRPGs. I mean, I guess it makes sense in the context of Japanese society and culture, but it's still a funny commonality to take note of. Dragon Quest has casinos, Trails has a fishing minigame, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door has a gaming parlor with slot machines, Pokemon has the game corner and fishing. Really, you name the JRPG and it often has at least one, if not both, gambling and fishing featured in some way or another. Bond or link system. The power of friendship usually plays an important role in stories of JRPGs, but some games take it to the next level and embed this magical force into the gameplay itself. The Trails of Cold Steel games have always had a link system quite similar to that of Miitopia, where friends will assist each other semi-randomly in various ways based on their link level. Persona's social links are much the same. There's also Fire Emblem's support system, which is less similar but still makes sense as a part of the conversation. Rare enemies. Metal Slime, Metal Snurp. Both rare enemies that are weak and produce great rewards upon their defeat. Dragon Quest has been executing this concept since time immemorial. Well, actually time memorial, since you can just look it up, but you get it. Random encounters. Random encounters were once a staple in JRPGs. People like me hated them. Since their conception, more and more JRPGs allow you to decide whether you engage or avoid enemies in the world, instead of randomly thrusting battle upon ye. Miitopia does have random encounters, but it fits since the traversal of levels is extremely linear anyway. You're never left wandering, desperately trying to advance in the main game. You're almost always allowed to progress, regardless of the path you take through a stage, so exploration is almost completely optional. Resources like mana, health, and sprinkles are extremely commonly replenished too, as stages are typically quite short. Overall, random battles feel much less like a nuisance in this game than in others, which fits that slow-going journey design philosophy discussed earlier. Combat. As previously mentioned, combat is a simplified version of the likes of Dragon Quest and the old Final Fantasy games. Basic attacks, spells, items, you know the deal. Post-game. Post-game dungeons and quests are commonplace, although admittedly not exclusive among JRPGs. By the end of the main story of these games, you can still have quite a ways to go before becoming truly powerful. There might be more skills to unlock and areas to explore, from the bonus dungeons of Final Fantasy IV to super bosses like Trainer Red in Pokemon's second generation. Okay, calling Red a super boss feels weird, but it's that idea of a boss that's far stronger than the final story boss that you unlock after completing requirements in post-game. This is tangential, but I wish Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door had a post-game this thorough. As a kid, I just wanted more of the game, and the Pit of 100 Trials just wasn't enough. The Inn. Classic JRPGs commonly have inns to replenish your party after traversing the wilderness. Taking it one step further, near these inns are almost always vendors to purchase equipment and items. In Miitopia, the shop is in the inn. In the inn. In summary, Miitopia is a great entry to the traditional turn-based JRPG genre. I believe it's especially strong as a gateway game due to its accessible, casual yet fun gameplay, and enticing character creation gimmick. Additionally, Miitopia stands above its gateway game peers, particularly due to the heavy inspiration taken from other games in the genre. The similarities make for a smooth transition to checking out what the rest of the genre has to offer. Basically, Miitopia does a great job at servicing a wide audience. It makes me happy when games are inclusive. I love that many different types of people can play and enjoy this game, especially those that might not usually be into this kind of game, or gaming in general. The more the merrier, I always say. Well, I never say that in everyday speech, but I think it's a good saying and it fits here, so... I just think it's interesting that this game will be for many people what Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door and Pokemon were for me, the beginning of a lasting love for turn-based JRPGs. In 10 years or so, I'll hear content creators and commenters on YouTube or whatever is around then profess their love for Miitopia. They'll talk about how it introduced them to the genre and get all nostalgic. It'll put a smile on old Jico's face. And then I'll go into the comment section and rant about how gaming was better when I was a child and tell those kids to get off my goddamn lawn. Hello, it's Jico. Leave a like on the video for more of my stuff like this to be recommended to you and others like you. Check out my channel and maybe subscribe for more similar videos. Thanks for hanging out.